You sit down to work. You tell yourself this time will be different. You close all the tabs. You silence your phone. You take a breath and begin. Then 3 minutes later, maybe less, you notice your hand reaching for your phone. You did not decide to check it. You just found yourself doing it. You force your attention back. 2 minutes pass. Your mind drifts to something you need to do later. You pull it back again. This happens over and over until you feel exhausted from trying to focus. Yet you have accomplished almost nothing. This is not laziness. This is not weak willpower. Something else is happening. There was once a master archer named Chen who could split an arrow with another arrow from 100 paces. Students traveled across provinces to learn his technique. They expected him to teach them about grip strength, breathing patterns, or how to account for wind. Instead, Chen made them sit in silence for hours doing nothing but watching incense smoke rise. When students complained that they came to learn archery, not meditation, Chen would say, "You think your problem is with the bow. Your problem is that you are trying to be in 3 places at once." Most students left frustrated, but one student named Li stayed. For months, he simply sat and watched the smoke. He noticed something strange. At first, his mind would race in every direction. He would think about his reputation, his goals, his fears, his judgments about whether this practice was wasting his time. But slowly, something shifted. The smoke just rose. His mind just watched. There was no effort in it. When he finally picked up a bow again, something was different. His arrows flew true, not because he tried harder, because he stopped dividing himself. This reveals something most people misunderstand about focus. We believe focus is about forcing attention to stay in place. We treat it like wrestling with a wild animal. We use timers, blockers, supplements, and sheer willpower. We fight against distraction as if it were an enemy. But the ancient Chinese understood something different. They knew that trying harder is what scatters you. The very act of fighting your attention makes it worse. Today, we see this pattern everywhere. Research from Microsoft in 2015 showed our average ability to maintain focus on a digital task dropped from 12 seconds in 2000 to around 8 seconds. People cite this and panic, saying humans now have shorter attention spans than goldfish. But this statistic measures something specific: how long we stay on a web page before clicking elsewhere, not our actual capacity for sustained attention. The real problem is not that we lost the ability to focus. The problem is that we lost the understanding of how focus actually works. When you sit down to work, what happens? You open your laptop with good intentions. You tell yourself this time will be different. You start the task. Within minutes, your mind drifts. You check email. You think about something else. You notice a notification. You wonder if you're doing this right. You question whether this task matters. Each thought pulls you in a different direction. Soon you feel exhausted from trying to focus, yet you have accomplished almost nothing. The modern solution is to eliminate distractions. Delete apps, hide your phone, block websites, create the perfect environment. These might help temporarily, but they miss something essential. The issue is not what pulls your attention away. The issue is that your attention has nowhere stable to rest. You are trying to force water to stay still by pushing it down. This only creates more turbulence. The ancient Chinese understood something we have forgotten. They had a concept called Yi. The character Yi combines the symbols for sound and heart. Yi means focused intention, but not in the way we think of it. Yi is not clenching your attention like a fist. Yi is not forcing yourself to concentrate. Yi is when your awareness naturally gathers around a single point, the way water flows toward the lowest place without struggle. When Yi is present, focus becomes effortless. You are not fighting to pay attention. You simply become attentive. In Taoist practice, there is also Shou Yi, which means guarding the one or maintaining oneness. The character Shou means to watch over or protect. Yi in this context means unity or oneness. Together, Shou Yi describes the practice of keeping your mind gathered in one place, rather than scattered across many. This was not a mystical idea. It was intensely practical. The ancient teachers knew that a mind pulled in 10 directions has no power. A mind resting in one direction has all the power it needs. This principle appears throughout Chinese philosophy. In the Tao Te Ching, Laozi asks, "In keeping the soul in its one, can you do it without letting it leave?" This was not poetry. It was a direct question. Can you maintain unity of attention? Can you stay with what is in front of you instead of splitting yourself between past and future, between doing and judging, between here and elsewhere? Zhuangzi wrote about the master craftsman whose mind was so unified with his work that he forgot himself completely. His attention was not divided between performing and worrying about performance. He simply did the work, fully present, and the work became excellent naturally. This was not because he tried harder. It was because he stopped fragmenting himself. Here is what the ancient teachers discovered. And this is the first insight that changes everything. When you try to force focus, you create tension. Tension scatters attention even more. Think about holding a bird. If you grip it tightly, it struggles and eventually dies. If you hold it gently, it rests in your hand. Your attention is the bird. Most people spend their lives squeezing. The practice of Shou Yi means this. When your mind wanders, you do not punish yourself. You do not force it back. You simply notice and gently guide your awareness to return. You do this again and again without judgment. This gentle returning is the practice. Not perfect stillness, not never wandering, just the patient practice of return. Li, the student who stayed with Chen, discovered this. For weeks, watching incense smoke, his mind raced constantly. He judged himself for failing. He tried harder to focus. This made it worse. Then, one day, he stopped fighting. When his mind wandered, he simply noticed and brought it back to the smoke. No anger, no force, just gentle return. Within days, something changed. The wandering decreased naturally. Not because he conquered it, because he stopped feeding it with resistance. Here is the second insight, and this one contradicts everything modern culture teaches you. Single pointing is stronger than multitasking. We celebrate doing many things at once. We pride ourselves on juggling tasks, responding quickly, staying busy. We mistake scattered activity for productivity. The ancient Chinese saw through this completely. In traditional study, a scholar preparing for the imperial examinations would focus on one text completely before moving to the next. He would read it, memorize it, contemplate it, write about it, until it lived in him. Only then would he begin the next text. This was not obsession. This was understanding that depth comes from concentration, not from skimming across surfaces. A craftsman would complete one piece before beginning another. A calligrapher would practice one character thousands of times until the brush moved as naturally as breathing. Each stroke required full presence. Not because other characters did not matter, because divided attention makes you powerless everywhere. Unified attention gives you strength. The character for Yi itself shows this. It depicts gathering or concentrating, the opposite of scattering. When you practice Yi, you choose one point and place your full awareness there. Not because other things do not exist, because splitting yourself makes everything weaker. A merchant keeping accounts with an abacus learned this. When his mind wandered to worries or plans, he would notice and return his attention fully to the beads moving under his fingers. This returning, repeated thousands of times, built a mind that could focus completely on whatever required attention. But here is what most people miss. And this is where the practice becomes surprising. The goal is not to stop your mind from wandering. The goal is to develop the capacity to return. This is the third insight that transforms the practice. Your mind will wander. This is not failure. This is simply how mind works. Fighting this natural movement creates suffering. Understanding it creates freedom. In meditation, students sit and watch their breath. The mind drifts within seconds. They bring it back. It drifts again. They bring it back. This is not failure. This is the practice. Each return strengthens something. Think of it like training a muscle. The power is not in holding the weight perfectly still. The power is in the repetition of lifting. Each time you notice your mind has wandered and choose to bring it back, you build Yi. You train your mind to gather rather than scatter. This seems simple. It changes everything. Chen, the master archer, understood this completely. When Li finally returned to the bow, Chen watched him shoot. Li's first arrow missed. His mind scattered immediately. Old patterns returned, but now something was different. Li noticed the scattering. He took a breath. He brought his awareness back to the single point of his target, not with force, with the gentle return he had practiced for months. The next arrow flew true. This understanding transforms how you approach work. You stop expecting perfect focus. Perfect focus is not the goal. Perfect focus is impossible. Instead, you practice the gentle return. You stop fighting yourself. You start guiding yourself. You recognize that focus is not a state you achieve once and maintain through effort. Focus is a practice of returning to center again and again. Consider what happens today. Studies from the University of California found that after each distraction, it takes an average of 23 minutes to return to the original task at full focus. Yet we interrupt ourselves constantly. We check our phones, open new tabs, let our minds drift. Each interruption costs us. Not because we are weak, because we never learned the practice of return. The ancient practice of Shou Yi is more valuable now than ever. We live in a world designed to fragment attention. Devices ping us constantly. Notifications interrupt thought. Environments pull focus in 10 directions. Against this current, the practice of guarding the one becomes essential. You need a way to gather your mind in a world that constantly scatters it. But there is something else. Something the ancient teachers knew that might surprise you. The problem is not just that we get distracted. The problem is how we respond to distraction. Most people, when they notice their mind has wandered, react with frustration. They judge themselves. They feel like they failed. This judgment creates more scattering. The mind wanders. You get angry. The anger becomes another distraction. And now you are even further from focus. The practice teaches something different. When your mind wanders, simply note it without judgment. Your mind went elsewhere. This is a fact, not a failure. Now bring it back. This changes everything. The wandering loses its power. You stop creating a second layer of distraction through self-criticism. The path back to focus becomes shorter. Here is how you practice this. 1. Choose your single point before you begin. Do not start work with vague intention. Name specifically what you will focus on. Not I will be productive, but I will write the introduction to this report. Not I will study, but I will understand this one concept completely. Your mind needs a clear place to land. Without this, you give it permission to wander. 2. When you notice distraction, pause for 3 breaths. Do not immediately force yourself back to work. Stop. Take 3 slow breaths. Notice where your attention went without judging it. This pause breaks the pattern of unconscious drifting. It creates space between wandering and return. In that space, you choose. 3. Practice one thing completely before starting the next. When you finish sending an email, finish it completely. Read it once more, then close it. Do not leave it half done while your attention jumps elsewhere. This seems small. It teaches your mind the feeling of completion. It trains the capacity to see one thing through. 4. Create a simple ritual for beginning focused work. Light incense. Make tea. Take 3 deep breaths. The specific action matters less than the consistency. This signals to your mind that you are entering a state of gathered attention. The ritual becomes an anchor. Over time, just performing it helps focus arrive. 5. End each focus session with acknowledgement. Do not immediately scatter your attention to the next thing. Take one moment to notice that you practiced returning to center. This completes the cycle. It strengthens the pattern. Each practice of return makes the next one easier. These practices seem almost too simple. This is why they work. You are not trying to transform yourself overnight. You are building the capacity for return, one gentle repetition at a time. Like water shaping stone, the work happens slowly, but changes everything. Chen, the master archer, taught hundreds of students over his life. Most wanted techniques. They wanted to know how to adjust for wind, how to improve their stance, how to strengthen their grip. Chen would nod and say yes, these things matter. Then he would make them sit and watch smoke rise. Most left. They thought he was withholding secrets. They did not understand that he was teaching the only secret that mattered. The few who stayed discovered something unexpected. After months of simply practicing the return, bringing wandering attention back to smoke, to breath, to the present moment, their arrows flew true. Not just in archery, in everything. Their work improved. Their relationships deepened. Their minds became clear. They stopped living in constant distraction. Not because they eliminated all distractions, because they learned to return. This is what the ancient teachers understood. Distraction is not the enemy. Distraction is just movement. Water moves. Wind moves. Mind moves. Fighting this movement creates suffering. Learning to work with it creates mastery. The power is not in never wandering. The power is in the gentle, patient practice of return. Today, we face something the ancients never faced. We live surrounded by devices designed by the smartest engineers in the world with one purpose: to capture and hold our attention. Every notification, every feed, every autoplay video is engineered to fragment focus. This is not an accident. This is the design. Against this, the practice of Shou Yi becomes more than helpful. It becomes necessary for anyone who wants to think clearly, work deeply, or live with intention. The statistics are real. People do switch tasks constantly. Attention does fragment easily. But this is not because humans lost the capacity for focus. This is because we forgot the practice of return. We forgot that focus is not something you have. Focus is something you practice. Like building strength or learning balance, it develops through patient repetition. Each time you notice distraction and choose to return, you build capacity. Each time you choose one point over many, you strengthen Yi. You do not need perfect conditions. You do not need to eliminate every distraction. You do not need special talent or unusual discipline. You need to understand one thing. Focus is not force. Focus is the gentle practice of returning your mind to where it needs to be, again and again, without judgment. This simple practice, repeated, changes everything. Not overnight, not dramatically, but completely. The sages did not fight distraction. They practiced return. They understood that a mind pulled in many directions has no power. A mind resting in one direction has all the power it needs. This is Shou Yi. This is guarding the one. This is how you gather your mind in a world that constantly scatters it. Write in the comments, I choose one point over many. Thank you for watching.